What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. Today we're talking about this.
It's pretty obvious, I'm not going to lie to you, that the gentleman that I've been talking about, whom I suspect might be up for a big position, is Lue Elizondo. And I've spoken to people in the legacy program who knew Lue. Lue, I know a lot of people, and they know you, and I know you can't speak about the role that you've held within the legacy program, but you did. And I think we've got to stop this nonsense because it's becoming destructive. There are factions and bitternesses beginning to develop within the UAP world, and I think it's in danger of blowing the whole thing apart because divide and rule is the moral of those, the gatekeepers that would seek to put this all back into a box for another 50 years, and that is their intent. Hopefully one day it will be where they are pulling the fingernails out of the members of the legacy program and extracting the truth of the crash retrieval reverse engineering program that we all know does exist and is quietly hidden in the countryside somewhere in rural Virginia, not far from this studio.
All right, Vetters, please hit that like button. That really helps out the videos. And of course, if you're not already subscribed and you like more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. First, let's just take a moment to appreciate Mac, the Vetted producer who are here on vacation with me. Wow, what a beautiful view. You may be wondering, Patrick, where are you? What are you doing? Well, the family and I are in Tarifa, Spain. That is the southernmost point of Spain, right next to the Strait of Gibraltar, basically. That's what you're looking at there. That's the water there behind me. And the lights that you see in the very background, all the way in the back, that's Africa. That's right. You can see Africa from here. It's awesome. We got the city of Tangier, which is back there, and honestly, just some port cities there as well. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. You see, some news came out that even while I'm on vacation, I'm going to cover. One, I had time. Two, everyone's asleep, except for Mac, of course. He's here hanging out with me. But I thought, why not? We're going to make this quick. I'm not doing a deep dive like I normally would, but Ross Coulthart came out with some comments on News Nation that I thought, yeah, screw it. Let's make a video on it. Because what he said about Lue Elizondo is nuts, and I have a lot to say about it. I just couldn't let this go, right? Now, normally I would do a deeper dive about this, but I just don't have the time. So we're just going to get into this clip, okay? And we'll discuss after.
It's pretty obvious, I'm not going to lie to you, that the gentleman that I've been talking about, whom I suspect might be up for a big position, is Lue Elizondo. And as you may have noticed in recent weeks, I have been quite delicately outspoken in my belief on previous Q&As that I think Lue needs to be more forthcoming about his past roles. And I like and respect Lue a lot. And I think he's in a difficult position because he's bound by his security oath about what he can reveal about his past roles. I know he can't talk about it. It's a ridiculous situation. But there are people who bitterly resent and don't think it's a good idea that Lue be appointed to a position of power in UAP transparency because they think that he was part of a previous agenda that was essentially to try to control the narrative, to restrict what the public is entitled to know about the UAP disclosure. And I think a lot of this was an intention by James Clapper, General James Clapper, to try and impose a narrative on the public domain using Lue as a frontman, a highly urbane, articulate and likable frontman, to try to restrict what the public was told about crash retrievals. And it struck me over the years that I've been covering this issue that the story that we ran with David Grush really wrong-footed all of this. That all of a sudden, David comes out and says, hang on a moment, We're not just arguing here about whether there are aliens or not. What we're talking about here is a crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, and I'm saying it's real, he says. And I think that did wrong foot that national security state attempt to try and provide a controlled disclosure. But I refuse to accept that the people like Lue Elizondo, who were part of that attempt at a controlled disclosure, were motivated by bad things. They're patriots. They love their country. And I've spoken to people in the legacy program who knew Lue. Lue, I know a lot of people, and they know you, and I know you can't speak about the role that you've held within the legacy program, but you did. And I think we've got to stop this nonsense because it's becoming destructive. There are factions and bitternesses beginning to develop within the UAP world, and I think it's in danger of blowing the whole thing apart because divide and rule is the moral of those, the gatekeepers that would seek to put this all back into a box for another 50 years. And that is their intent.
All right. So basically, Ross Coulthart is saying that Lue Elizondo is in the legacy UFO program. All right. And that he should just come out and talk about it. And he might be getting a position that many people think he shouldn't get because he's in the legacy UFO program. And that has caused some problems in controlling the narrative, right? The rollout. So essentially, Ross Coulthart is accusing Lue Elizondo of controlling the UFO narrative since he came out in 2017. It's almost been a decade now. And kind of for good reason because he's in the legacy UFO program, right? And if you don't know what the legacy UFO program sort of implies, right? It's not defined by Ross Coulthart, by the way, and never defined by anybody, but which is why it's such a weird term to use. But they're essentially saying that's the program that has been hiding UFOs, crashed UFOs, alien bodies, and reverse engineering them. I guess a mix of that, right? Now, wouldn't there be more than one program? So there's just one legacy UFO program? Seems kind of weird, but regardless. The idea that Lue Elizondo is in this program and has been, I mean, for how long? What's he been doing? Right? Just don't buy it. I'm sorry. Now, the idea of him trying to control the UFO narrative since he's come out, that I 100% buy because I've seen it. We've all seen it, right? And basically, Ross is accusing Lue of lying for all of this time. Basically, can't trust a word he says, right? Because you don't know who it's for and what it's for, right? These are strong allegations. I don't know if people understand the allegations here, right? Ross Coulthart and other people now are speaking up and again, accusing Lue Elizondo of just being a complete liar and a disinformation agent, right? To come out, spread a different narrative, right? Basically to pull people away from this UFO legacy program by admitting there's a UFO legacy program and talking about UFOs and aliens and even talking about his own personal orb encounters in his book. Does that seem like a good way to do it? Right? Now, I could believe that Lue Elizondo is a counter intel agent because he's admitted to being one. That's his training. To cover up nothing, meaning there is no UFOs. That I can believe. He's been brought out to make you think there's UFOs and aliens and exotic tech, but there actually isn't any. That I can believe. Not that he's coming out and saying aliens and UFOs and this and that to cover up actual aliens and UFOs. Does that make any sense to you? Does that make any sense? No. Now, he has made the subject, look foolish at times, right? How about those fake UFO pictures he showed, right? The chandelier, the irrigation circles, right? The flyover in Washington, D.C., that's another fake photo he showed. It was CGI, right? The chandelier was a reflection in a window. And the UFO over a rural farm field was literally irrigation circles off of Google Maps. Right? And along with those came stories that were completely fabricated. Right? This doesn't make any sense. This just screams bullshit, right? Um, and people are trying to apply, oh, well, Lou's doing it for good reason because he's a patriot. What? This sounds stupid, right? All of this sounds stupid. This makes me believe less in that there's a UFO legacy program. It makes me believe less in that than ever before. Especially you got people like Ross and other people claim, I've talked to people inside the UFO legacy program. I got sources. Even podcasters coming out and saying that they got sources inside the UFO legacy program. They have sources inside the most secretive United States uh, military program in the history of the United States. And granted, the United States is the most powerful country to have ever existed in humanity. So they're basically saying they have insiders, podcasters, okay? UFO podcasters are saying they have insiders. And Ross Coulthart, an Australian journalist for News Nation, is saying he has sources inside the most secretive program ever to exist in the history of humanity. And we're just supposed to believe that? Right? There's so many red flags with this story. And again, these things like this just make me believe in this stuff less. It makes me believe way less that there's an actual program or crashed UFOs or alien bodies or anything. I'm not saying there's no phenomena. I separate the two, right? It seems like no countries have any UFOs or alien bodies or something, but there is a phenomena, right? I just think the phenomena is way smarter. They've never let themselves been caught. They've never crashed any UFOs, right? I think governments have just seen it as a way to cover up their own tech. They may be filming things and having experiences that they can't explain. That I would believe. But I'm starting to way less believe that there's a UFO legacy program. One, I've never been convinced. Two, stories like this make me way less convinced. And I think Ross and people like him are using that to be more convincing that there's something going on. There's just too many red flags. And here's another red flag. Ross is trying to paint it as if, well, Lue, just doing his thing. He's national security, he's got to do his thing, but everyone knows Lue should come out and talk, Lue. If that were true, then Ross Coulthart just exposed him and exposed a secretive UFO program, right? The most secretive program in the history of the United States. And Ross Coulthart, a foreign national journalist for Australia, right, is outing this U.S. government program and someone who supposedly is in it, just outing them on the news. Does that sound safe at all? If it were true, Ross just put Lue in danger. If it's true, I don't believe it to be true, and I don't think Ross put Lue in any danger whatsoever because I think it's all bullshit games. But if it were true and Ross is playing like it is, if we were to play in that sandbox, right, he just did a huge disservice to one, America, two, the military, and three, Lue Elizondo and his family, if that's true. And I don't like Lue at all, right? But if this is true, I don't want to see anything happen to Lue and his family. I hate the guy, but I don't want to see him get hurt, right? Ross is saying he likes Lue, and he literally just put him in danger if that's true. Again, tell me, does that make any sense? That's why it's bullshit. This story is bigger than just Ross accusing Lue Elizondo, because that's what people are focusing on. Oh, they're losing the program. He needs to come out. No. What this shows me is there probably isn't any fucking program whatsoever, right? And if anything, Lue's just coming out to cause havoc in the UFO community, right? To make you think there's shit going on, but really it's just American tech, right? Again, this doesn't mean the phenomena doesn't exist. So I strongly believe there is a phenomena on this earth we don't understand, and people have had experiences with it and seen things and whatever. But I don't think any of these governments have any of these things. At least not America, at least from what I can see. Something's not adding up here, right? I don't know. So whatever it is, it's not the story they're trying to sell you, right? The story they're trying to tell you is probably what it isn't, right? Now you got to wonder, what is the story? But let's be real. This is propaganda. This is counterintelligence. right? At its finest. For what reason, right? That's the big question. For what reason? Who's feeding Lue these stories, right? Or excuse me, Ross, these stories, right? How's Lue going to respond to this? I mean, David Grush has made this claim before, actually, about 8 months ago. Okay, I don't have the clip to show you, but on Weaponized with Jeremy Corbell, when Age of Disclosure came out back in November, they did a show about it, right? Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. And people were wondering, why isn't David Grush in Age of Disclosure, right? Well, it turns out that Jeremy said, according to Jeremy Corbell, he said that David Grush was not in Age of Disclosure because he has a different viewpoint of how they're running Disclosure. And he doesn't agree with the Age of Disclosure, and specifically Lue Elizondo. And Jeremy's quoted as saying from Weaponized, again, I don't have the clip, I'm paraphrasing here. Some of you will probably remember this. I made a video about it. Dave thinks, right, speaking of David Grush, this is what Jeremy said, that if Lue Elizondo was in the program, he should just come out and say it. Just come out and say it, right? So this has already been brought up, right? And now they're really pushing hard for Lue to do what? It's almost like they just want Lue out. They don't want him to have this position that he may get. And this may be a way to talk some smack about him so he doesn't get the position, I guess. I don't know, right? Again, something's just not adding up. But this, again, is not the first time this has been brought up. It's just the first time it's been said by a bunch of people, right? So what's going to happen now, right? Is Lue's credentials tarnished, right? Basically, again, he's been accused of being an avid liar, right? Basically don't know what to believe of him. And I'm not saying that that's not true, because Lue has lied and has shown fake UFO pictures and done a lot of different things, right? But is it because he's in some secret UFO legacy program? I mean, wouldn't that be just so convenient, right? Losing this secretive UFO program. That's what he's been doing this whole time because he's a patriot. I'm not saying Lue isn't a patriot, okay? But probably not for this reason, right? This is just ridiculous, if you ask me. I don't buy any of it. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Enjoy this beautiful view out here. Full moon. Got Mac here hanging out. Wonderful. And probably not going to make another video while I'm on vacation, but I thought I would get this one out at least. I don't know. If I have time, I will. That's it. I've just, been out all day, swimming, beaches, coffees, towns, shopping, you name it. Anyway, we'll see you guys on the next one. Remember, Vedas, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.